KNX Radio.
All right, everybody, we are back, and Simone's back in the house, and she's already giving me that look like, okay, you know today's Friday. Yes, I am fully aware today is Friday, so welcome to this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend. Everybody's back in the house. Woo! So it's Ricardo D. Rice and my correspondents.
Carl Andrew.
Double R.
Simone Cherie.
All right, so I feel like the family's been broken up for a couple of days. So everybody does not know, I was on vacation this weekend in the Bahamas. I must say shout out to Carnival because when I went for the first time last year, you guys sucked. And when I went this time, it was amazing. I went with my first cousins. It was the first cousin cruise. And I really didn't want to go, but we went. It was amazing, and we got to spend a lot of time together.
Them pictures look good.
Somebody was talking.
I thought you was going to come back tan. A little tanner.
I am tan. I'm not. I'm still
This
pecan.
isn't your normal
I'm still
color?
pecan tan, but
Okay.
that's because I use a cucumber peel to get all the excess skin off my face.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know how to do these things. So we made that happen. But shouts out to Carnival because, like I said, the trip was amazing. I needed the break, and now we're back. In my absence, Simone was in my chair, and I think she was channeling her inner me because she had on her little glasses and everything. But she swears she wears them to drive. I've never seen her wear glasses. I've never seen you wear glasses.
I'm not consistent with it. You
Okay,
see,
well, there you go.
Which is what vision deteriorates. That was just a
Yeah, like she's not
coincidence.
wearing glasses right now. So
And you see my type font is 50. It's practically 50 because I need them on.
So you rather make your life hard and just not wear the glasses you know you should be wearing?
It was, I'll just say, side note, we did not do what you do. But I think we did a great, it was fun.
What
we
did I
had a
do?
great
Nah, our
conversation.
show was lit, bro.
It was fun.
It was a great
not
show.
Intended
It
to
was a great
replace
conversation.
the leadership blend,
We
which is
had-
why we said this is just a takeover. You know what I'm saying?
We had great conversation. That conversation with Rhea at the end. That was good.
It was informative.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't
Still
watch
confused.
the show.
but
We tried to stick to the mission. You still confused?
yeah, I'm
See,
still.
it's gonna take more than 1 hour, I think, to get
It's
it.
still confusing. It's too many. Like it's just too many. It's too many.
We learn new vocabulary words.
That's what I'm saying. It's too many. It's too many. The
Do a
meanings.
roadmap.
It's for all those meanings.
The meanings are interesting.
Yeah, it's too many. It's too many.
Look, I watched it. I haven't had a chance to finish it,
Nah, you gotta finish.
but I got to. I will say that the other young lady that was sitting in is Rhea Washington. She's she's in the apprenticeship program now. She just got promoted, so shouts out to her. She's amazing at what she does. She does a lot of the editing and commercial stuff in the program, but her knowledge of all of this was actually astounding. And she sounds so serious when she talks. So I was sitting like, wow, she's so serious. When she
Yeah.
talks.
That's why we wanted her,
Yeah,
her
that,
here.
and
She's
that's
so
what I'm
serious
saying.
when
That's
she
what
talks.
made it dope because like it's so many terms. I ain't know all those terms. I heard of like 3 of them. Just named probably like 12 to 15 terms, and the definitions.
Mm-hmm.
I only know 3.
And she identifies as queer, non-binary. So it was good to not have a discussion absence of the people. That, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like having a conversation about blackface with nothing but white people at the table, which we'll get to later. But I felt like we checked that box off because we had someone at the table.
I just thought it was funny you were sitting in my chair. I just thought it was so funny, it wasn't bad. I've never seen anybody sit in my chair during my hour, so it was like, oh look at her, she's so
You probably
cute.
never got past there.
I was like,
She
she's
is
so
still
cute
in
when
my
she's
chair.
going sitting in the chair. It worked. But in any event, shouts out to all you guys. It was a good show. I got good
Thank you.
feedback because I always ask the engineers, and especially David because he has his own opinion at any given moment, and he has no problem sharing it. So I asked him, and he actually said y'all did a good job. So that's how I know he's had something. He's like he itching to say something. What do you want to say, David?
So yes,
What
I'm
did you say?
absolutely.
He's
I'm always
itching to say
itching to say
something.
something. It was a real peculiar how you introduced me and how I am and how I come off. It's crazy. It's just a snippet of my personality, but whatever. Yeah, it was a great show. It was a great show. I didn't even notice anybody's absence. It was really good.
And there's the shade he throws. So that's the personality I get all the time. He's the engineer. He's one of the best. I'm gonna go on air saying that he's one of the best. Yeah, he's shocked, and he should be because it'll be. I don't believe in positive affirmation, so that's the first and last time it's going to happen.
Oh Lord.
All right, so let's get back into the swing of things. So Simone, what do we have on the rundown?
Oh man, we're gonna talk about pipe bombs that are now upwards of 10 that have been going off all week. We'll cover that a little bit. There's also been a situation, not just at the border, but actually the Migrant Caravan situation, which I think we should cover a little bit because we have been talking about immigration. And then I also think we should talk about not just Georgia and the big Georgia race that's going on for the midterms, but also what's going on in Georgia about voter suppression, and cover that a little bit more as well. And because it's almost Halloween, which we'll have Monday.
Which is my birthday. Dun, dun, dun.
Wow.
He's so happy for himself.
Yes, my birthday's on Halloween. So, yes, I am very excited. And, yeah.
But I was going to say maybe we should talk about costumes a little bit in light of Megyn Kelly's comments about blackface.
Oh, yeah. And today, Kyle gets to cover that. So he gets to get the backstory. And all right. So, listen. We have 2 objectives on today's show. 2. First objective is to get really into this voting thing, especially particularly in Georgia, because that's where we reside. And number 2, this is Kyle's test because I'm now testing the interns who sit in on the show to actually get it in, to become a real on-air journalist.
I'm
y'all
ready.
can definitely chime in, call in, all that good stuff on his segment. Actually, I want y'all to harass him. I want y'all to ask him 50,000 questions on his segment.
I love constructive criticism, so don't be easy.
And there you have,
cool.
folks.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there you have it. All right, so Simone, go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, so I want to start off with the basically nationwide near assassination attempt that's been going on in the form of mailed pipe bombs. Homemade, presumably, but mailed pipe bombs. So they've been sent out, over 10 now, to multiple kind of liberal and political and public figures across the country. The first one was on Monday at the home of George Soros out of New York, whose name may be less familiar to you, but he's a billionaire liberal investor. Hungarian. He's incredibly famous, and he gives a lot to the Democratic Party every single year. He received the first pipe bomb on Monday. Then they were sent to former President Barack Obama, then to the Clintons.
Wait, are they sending these to these people's home addresses?
Yes, they're looking for home addresses.
How do you even get that?
And their district addresses.
How do you get that?
That's what I'm saying. All this look real sketchy.
I
But
think
they're
it's an
also
inside
sending
job.
them to workplaces as well. So they're also going to their districts. Rep. Maxine Waters received 2. So she got 1 in California in her district and another one in Maryland.
All right, so what we not about to do is threaten Auntie Maxine. We not. That's what we not going to do.
Because y'all know she will curse y'all out on TV.
And then reclaim her time. So we not doing that.
She's made a statement about it, which we can talk about in a minute. Robert De Niro, actor and Hollywood legend Robert De Niro received a pipe
he got
bomb.
one yesterday.
Yes.
Why was somebody was?
Yes. Joe
Because
Biden.
he Robert De Niro.
Okay,
Right.
are these random? Now they're getting real random.
No, he is.
For
He's
you to-
still liberal.
yeah.
They're still, I think, liberal Hollywood figures.
Yeah, you can't, for you to have somebody's exact address, like where they live. I'm not talking about like they crib that like everybody can drive
A
past.
P.O. box, yeah.
Nah, you got like the brownstone. Like if you got a brownstone in New York, and Robert De Niro probably owned the whole building, but he the only one live there, and you send it to the. Nah, this look real funny. The Joe Biden one look worse.
He got 2.
It looked worse.
Former VP Joe Biden received 2.
Cause it's like, nah, we at your door. Oh, you got another one too.
Yeah, he received 2, just like Maxine Waters received 2. And then another one that was really interesting went to CNN studios in New York. And they had to evacuate the studios during CNN Newsroom with Poppy Harlow and Jim Sciutto on the air. And they had to evacuate in the middle of the broadcast and go outside and kind of use their own phones and own devices to keep the broadcast going. So it was, and also former National Intelligence Director James Clapper. So basically it looks like, and this morning, one more. This morning, Senator Cory Booker also received a pipe bomb. Mm-hmm. So really, it's like the most critical people of President Trump that you could list, seemingly, are all receiving these homemade pipe bombs. FBI is investigating, but they don't know who's sending them. So the questions, I think, since every day there's been a new development, but the questions have kind of been like who's to blame for it, per se. And President Trump did come out very early on and say that obviously that it's unacceptable behavior, but also just that whoever is doing it will be caught, will be apprehended, will be punished because we don't tolerate this sort of thing. But I guess he felt like he was not, his apology kind of fell, not even apology, his words were not well received. So the media was very quickly like, well, listen, the reason why we believe that this is happening is because the president keeps telling everyone that CNN is fake news and that he hates his critics, and that's why people are doing things like this. And so President Trump tweeted at 3 a.m. this morning, watching Don Lemon, who I love, Don Lemon's show, but just the idea that the president's tweeting watching TV is funny to me. He said, the lowly rated news organization CNN can criticize me at will. When I criticize them, they go wild and scream that I'm not presidential. And his son chimed in and said, CNN did not CNN did not change their language or take responsibility for their words when they called my family Nazis and racists, even though my brother received a pipe bomb and my wife opened a pipe bomb with my name on it, or excuse me, a suspicious package with his name on it. So they're basically trying to say, like, the Trump family has received these sorts of suspicious packages as well. And right now it's just a lot of bad behavior, I think, going on both sides. People just saying, you're responsible, the president's responsible, and the president saying, and Sarah Sanders saying, when she was reporting to CNN, that all his coverage is so negative, like over 90% of his coverage is so negative that you're inciting people to do things that they would not normally do. So there's a lot of blaming going on, but I kind of wanted to see what y'all thought about who is someone to blame, who's to blame.
This being able to saying that you can incite people to be angry, like that's like the new thing. Like especially we're starting to see it like pop up on college campuses, where if you say something that I don't like, then you incited me to be upset at what you like. I seen like Ben Shapiro was talking about it, saying that people, if I say something that you don't like, that is a cause for you to feel a type of way and you to want to act violently. And I'm like, it might be true, because he's denied it. Like, just because I say something that you don't like don't mean that I'm telling you to go be violent. But like the difference is Trump is telling people to be violent.
He has, like, if you think about his rallies, like the clips that they used to show all the time, where he had hecklers in his rallies, and he would tell the mob, like, punch him, get him out of here, like rough him up, do whatever you got to do, like.
And then somebody get hurt, and he's like,
well, right.
I didn't incite a riot.
Yeah, and he said, I'll pay the legal bills. I'll pay your legal bills. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead and go for it.
But this is always this is the fear you have with charismatic leaders, because remember, when you start talking about charismatic leaders, you get into the Hitlers. You get into people who have this kind of crowd mob mentality to say, hey, I have this much influence over you to get you to do X, Y, Z. The scary part becomes, how far does that influence go? If one of your crowd people is willing to punch somebody because they disagree with you, and you incite that, who's to say that you won't say, hey, let's wipe out black folks? Or you already got this thing with Mexicans, let's wipe out Mexicans. Your followers are that gone. Yeah, that's the fear with charismatic leaders.
Don't compare Trump to Hitler.
They compared Obama to Hitler, though.
I'm not comparing it.
A lot of people compared Obama.
Charismatic leaders, these are the attributes of charismatic leaders. You always use Hitler as an example because he's the far extreme, but he was a charismatic leader. He could get in front of a room. He could inspire folks.
But he was also super articulate, and that's like different. Like he went to university.
Yeah, but it's still he was
the
still,
fact that they call college university.
Stalin.
Actually, what you just said goes to the point that we always make about Hillary. Hillary did all that too, but she lacked the charisma, so she cannot be classified as a charismatic leader.
But her politics made her great. And don't forget, the guy that appointed Hitler was also he was the politician, and he was like, no, this seems like a good guy. He seems like a great guy to lead the resurgence of a failing country.
Yeah, but it didn't stop. Once they did that, it didn't stop. It just kept going.
Because he was lit. He was like, hold on, like, because he was a historian, and that's like the part of his story that get left out. He was a historian, so he copied everything he saw in history of just going somewhere and just conquering a whole. He did this to whole countries. Like, I'm gonna just pull up on your country, take your whole country over. Now it's my country. Now it's German.
So now he a Viking.
But if you remember,
he studied the Vikings. Everything that we saw, that he loved Roman and Greek. He loved that stuff. And if you pay attention to how he was conquering these lands, he did it exactly the same way they did. Like, they didn't go from like north to south. They went kind of clockwise. So you take over the country that's right next to you, the country that they're affiliated with, and then the country that they're affiliated with, and I'm gonna make my way through the South, and I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna take over everything around me and make all that mine. And that charismatic leader that everybody think that this guy is, or think that we gotta compete with, like, that's what you get. You get Trumps when you just want the charisma. No politics, just the charisma.
Well, I mean, you can adverse that too, because you can also say that Martin Luther King was a charismatic leader because he got people.
And Malcolm X was an incredible speaker.
Yeah, but then, like, you see what happened to them.
But so here's the thing.
You seen what happened?
They also got credit for. They also had to take credit for people's actions on their behalf too, like the Black Panthers and they were very, very scary to mainstream white Americans at the time because they really wanted to use their Second Amendment rights to bear arms. And there were a lot of leaders who were criticized for kind of arming or militarizing, black communities that were relatively safe before. They were being victimized before. But leaders always end up having to take some level of responsibility for individual behavior. So the question is like, okay, free speech is supposed to protect that you can say whatever you want to say, and if somebody goes off and does something crazy about it,
they don't got nothing to do with you. Limited liability.
Right. Unless they, I guess.
Limited liability.
But reciprocally, vicarious liability. That what
Right.
you do on the scope of whoever you work for, that organization, whatever the case may be, still keeps you liable.
Right.
So there's also vicarious liability on the opposite side.
But even what you're talking about with like the Panthers, like telling people that you have the right to bear arms, you have the right to protect yourself and your family, and then everybody like, nah, you can't do that. You can't just be having guns.
Right.
And then like we seen like Trump like, no, if you got a gun, I thank you for having a gun. Maybe you should go get more guns and buy more ammo. And then you're starting to see like everybody just out here with the choppers just in the street. Because the president said I can have my. We're seeing the same thing, but when we did it in the Black Panther, like when we was doing it during that movement, because we were inciting one specific group of people. He's inciting one specific group of people. But these are the people that are afraid of another group of people.
Right.
So when we start to like build that momentum, like, hold on, we can read. This say what?
Yeah.
Oh, now I understand
right.
it, so I can like walk around with the joint strapped to my back like ramp. So when we start to realize like we can do that, they become afraid. Now the whole country is like, so we could just walk around with the guns, and now everybody looking at them like, nah, y'all can't do that. It's always been segments and groups of people like, nah, that's wrong. No, it's literally read your Constitution.
Right.
Know your rights and understand like you have the right to walk around with whatever you want to walk around with, long as you don't start the violence.
Right.
Don't start the violence. Like
right.
I can, if you in my house, I can shoot you down in my house.
Mm-hmm.
But that property
and
in
I
my
think
house
on my
too.
front lawn.
That property is my house too. I just can't shoot you in your back. So I can call you out like, hey, let me tell you something real quick. Shoot you down. Stand your ground. I can do that, but I can't shoot you in your back. But if you the police and you kick the door in my crib without announcing yourself and then I shoot you, it's a crime. What a stand your ground law for that?
Right.
Okay, that got really dark really quick.
It did.
That got really dark really quickly, and we were not talking about guns.
Understanding politics, like understanding like little simple laws like that, like your Second Amendment rights, understanding your First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
I can literally say whatever I want to whoever I want, long as I don't incite violence. And we've seen like people use that to like the utmost. Like Trump will say whatever he wants. And like subtly incite the violence. Nah, he talking trash. Smack him up, get him out of here. All right, now a dude getting beat up, bloody nose, eye like looking crazy, just that quick. Yeah. And then he start talking crazy. And we only see him talk crazy.
Yeah, and
I mean, okay. So here's my question, because when you look at the world and its different pockets now. The ideology of us having a utopia where people can kind of do and say what they want to say, and now you're starting to see this demise of what we put in place. So y'all had the conversation last week about gender. Well, gender was limited to male and female. Now we're saying, no. It's more than just male and female. With amendments and laws and stuff, you're saying, well, we wrote it this way, but everybody's starting to find these little loopholes, which are actually legal because that loophole does exist.
Yeah.
So, are we headed towards this utopia where people can kind of do what they want to say?
Here's my take on this. My take on this is liberty is a very scary idea, and it's an American idea, and I think everybody loves saying it, like they believe in freedom, they believe in everybody's freedom to do what they want to do and live and let live, etc. But that always seems to stop when somebody you don't like is doing that exact same thing. And that's where people decide, you know what, I don't think I like the Second Amendment, right? Because I don't think you should have a gun. I don't think I like free speech because I don't like what you have to say. Like President Donald Trump tucks out of the side of his neck if no one else ever has. But he also believes in reforming libel laws. Like, he wants to hold newspapers and other media outlets accountable for saying things that he doesn't think are true, and he basically wants to be able to sue them, which would contradict the First Amendment. So it's like he wants it both ways, and I think a lot of people feel are the exact same way in the way that they behave. When a Bernie Sanders supporter opened fire at a congressional baseball game and almost wiped out like 30 members of the House, including the majority whip, he did not have to bear the responsibility of that. I don't believe that whoever delivered that toxic chemical ricin to Senator Susan Collins in Maine, I don't believe she's responsible for that. I've never heard Senator Collins say anything, about violence, about telling people to do something that is either immoral or illegal. But that's why it's so important to have a moral leader. And I think that we've kind of decided, especially in this past election, that we are looking for a certain type of effectiveness. We want somebody to just get certain things done. We want somebody to just handle certain things. But the problem with that is it sounds pragmatic, but that's when you have people who will play in this space between what's legal and what's really a good idea and what's really like smart leadership. Because true. You can say anything that you want to say, but is it worth it if people who are happy to go to jail or are happy to deal with the legal consequences will go ahead and plow a car through a protest? You know what I mean?
It's always been that argument. Like I said before, Martin Luther King has the most felonies of any one person ever. He got over 300 felonies for just like his rights. So like the right to free speech, the right to have armed security. And then they have the right to bear arms. He went to jail over 300 times for like being like a good person.
He was a moral leader, though,
like
most people would say.
And moral leaders get things done sometimes. He just so happened to galvanize a whole country of people that looked like him and people that didn't look like him, and that's scary to some people. Obama did the same thing. He was able to galvanize people on both sides. Like, hey, look, I understand we got a lot of things that we need to work on, but let's focus on this. Let's get kids. Let's help these kids. Let's get some jobs. Let's put people back to work. Let's try to get along. Attempt to get along. Trump like, nah, we don't like each other. You stay over there. I'm over here. That separation that we've seen in our country for years and years and years that we assume went away. We assume like we assume because everybody liked Clinton. Not a lot of people like Bush, but a lot of people agreed with things that Bush was doing. Right. So, true. They blow us up, but let's pull up. Yeah. Let's pull up. They blew us up. I'm ready to fight. True. In 30 years, that was the most that we've seen like that spike in the military. We haven't seen nothing like that since. But everybody wanted to be in the middle. No, I want to fight for I'm trying to pull up. They can't just come over here and blow stuff up. Like, people love that about him. He was gung-ho. Like, he was ready to do whatever. And the politics was whatever. But people liked him. And then Obama came through and was like, let's get along. Everybody, let's have conversations. You got stuff that you don't like about me. I got a lot of stuff I don't like about you. But let's not stop trying to make this place better because we got things that we don't like about each other. And then Trump single-handedly in 2 years came through and is literally trying to wipe away. I'm talking about like with the eraser, wipe away all that. Like, nah, we don't got to talk to them. Nah, we don't got to get along. You don't like them, don't like them.
Mm-hmm. And don't watch this news network and don't watch that news network. And well, here's what I will say to that effect, though. I think there's something to be said about news not really being news anymore. That is very dangerous. Like, I think there was a time where news was not always so entertaining and it was not always so clearly like polarized. Like, anytime there's a breaking story, even the pipe bomb story, switch to Fox News and switch to CNN, and it is like listening to two different languages. Like, I remember when news anchors was ugly. Well.
All right. Well, actually, all right. So before we leave the pipe bomb thing, I had two questions.
Sure, yeah.
So going back to everybody remembers anthrax that was sent through the mail, and so on and so forth. So I guess my question is how do these pipe bombs get through the postal service? Because I thought we tightened that up after we had that whole anthrax scare. And number two, how are people getting people home addresses, not P.O. boxes, home addresses? And number three, are we dealing with a conspiracy theory?
I think it's an inside job. I think it's somebody in the White House.
Explain, Kyle.
That's it right there.
Who's inside job?
I don't know exactly. Like, it's still too early to say, but I definitely think it's a Trump supporter because he, whoever did it, went after all of Trump's quote unquote enemies who he's spoken negatively about. Okay.
Joe Matt Cleaner.
Yeah. So.
Well, the question becomes, what is the benefit of doing these actions? Who benefits from it? What is the benefit from it? How?
He does.
How?
He benefits from it all. I told you with the Kavanaugh thing. If they won it, he benefits from it. He gets to go into a new election. Like, it don't matter what they say we did, even if we did it. Yeah, I grabbed her by the... Yep, right. I did. And I paid a porn star. Yep, I did it. And my homie might have done whatever he did. But look at what we've done since. Look, he's still in office now. He's now the new Supreme Court justice. And they said he did this. That's just a little smudge. We can use an eraser and erase that from history. Nobody in 2 years, Trump will only talk about himself. So we probably won't even, the American people won't even remember that his homie went to court for like rape maybe. Nobody will talk about that. It's just like, nah, we're going into the next 4 years to do what we did the last 4 years, but even better. Because that's what Trump is. The first season of The Apprentice, big. The next season, even big. Like, that's what he's trying to turn up.
When the Kavanaugh situation ended, he said, we won. And it was so sad to me because you know that we were here on the show talking about that every single show. And I was like, you know what side we were on. I was on the side of like, listen, there's nothing here. And it was definitely not to Trump's benefit, but that was just true. But then when he said something like, and we won, like he's in 4th grade, then it just was like, it just makes you regret, like, even, you know what? It's like.
But I told you.
But the problem with that is just like, that means that you can't even be rational or have like a normal position, because if you ever find yourself on his side, he's just going to act like a child. And it's not a game. Like no matter who's right or wrong or who was lying, I don't care who was lying. It's still not like a, yay, let's jump up and down, because if Kavanaugh was lying, then a woman was sexually assaulted. You know, if he's not lying, then obviously you saw what the consequence could have been at the end of his career. So it's like, there is no winning. And I just think that the fact that he thinks that everything is a game and he's so soulless is a real problem. But like, as a country, the people are always trying to find change. So I think the real issue is, like, as these presidents change, is society going to continue to deteriorate? Because for the last like 100 years, America's always gone back and forth. If we have a Democratic leader, we have a Republican leader. It's always gone back and forth, like
to maintain
Bush,
the balance.
Clinton, Bush, and then Reagan before that, but then Carter, and then Ford, Nixon, Johnson. It is literally in order, and seems like the more extreme the Democrat was, then the quicker a Republican came in. Or if somebody was kind of neutral, then maybe there'd be 2 terms or 2 presidents that were kind of the same party. But it's like, so the next president could be Democratic, but that doesn't mean the culture is going to change. Like, as a culture, I think that's where people really have like a responsibility to say, okay, we're going to be rational. We're going to think. We're going to say, okay, someone's saying something. If someone's saying something, that's different than taking action. And I don't even want to put this on Donald Trump, because I think people have to be responsible for what they do. And I don't believe that the person on the other end of that screen is someone that you're liable to. I just don't. I think as an adult, you should be cognizant of what you have to say. But I don't think that it should hang on you that people have just completely lost their mind. Like,
well, at the end of the day, I mean, it's my new theory that'll be introduced next year called calculated conflict. But it's the ideology that conflict, okay, book plug. The ideology that conflict breaks a foundation and shows you what's really there. Because like you said, I think a lot of us, myself included, did not realize that there were so many bigots and racists still alive.
You want to know why?
And you know, it happened, and there was a resurgence, and now they're in front of us, and you're just like, wow, I thought you were dead. And you're literally standing in front of me.
But you want to know why?
What?
We, like you said, like, the last time we seen consistent politics in the country was, I mean, we haven't seen it since Roosevelt. I mean, he ran a term, and then he was contested and ran a term, and then he was like, I'm going to be the first president to go another term. And then he went another term. We haven't seen that in a long time. So a president to go 3 terms, which is 12 years, he outlasted all of his predecessors and then everybody that came after him. So he went through war, and then like post-war going into another war, and then like an almost war, and then another president. But the politics were already set, and people didn't know much. So they only had to, you had radio and TV. in print. So if we read it in print, all right, if the news say it, then it must be true. Now it's to the point where no matter what the news outlets say, no matter what's on print, no matter who said it, no matter who say it, it can always be disputed. Yeah. And that might be that it's not just the politicians. It's on us. We know so much. Like we know we know too much.
Yeah, we know too much.
And it used to be that young people then, so if you go back 50 years, the young people didn't know more than their parents.
That's true.
They knew enough to have a conversation, but they didn't know more.
We had filters, and parents filtered what you got.
Until
school,
you went to school.
But like we have access to a lot of information, but that's why people have to think very, very critically about what they're hearing and who they're hearing it from, and like what that agenda looks like. Like I just feel like we have to be more cognizant. Like the fact that you can have the same story reported with very different elements. It's not that they're not. CNN is not fake news, but they are very, very focused on negativity, which I understand. But the problem with that is someone who is vehemently in belief that Donald Trump is a great president and that he is under attack and that he needs our support as a people is not going to hear the facts that come at the end of your story. They're going to see the headline. They're going to see the clip in which you got him rambling like an idiot or whatever, They're going to hear that. So it's almost like it's unfortunate, but it's not enough to just be critical. You have to find some type of balance. And I think the news should be news, if only for news' sake, because people don't know the difference between a commentator and a journalist. I've been called a journalist before, and I'm not a journalist. People are commentators on most cable news networks. Some are journalists, some are literally journalists, and they're fact checkers, and they understand integrity, and they're subject to their craft. But most people are commentators. They're political leaning. They have an opinion, they share their opinion, and they pick stories based on their opinion, and they pick guests to support their opinion.
But I think that line is blurred. That line is blurred now.
Well, I think because the expectation has changed. We expect commentators. We don't expect journalists anymore. Journalists have to present both sides of a story when they present that story.
But what about when your commentator can do that?
Yeah, they can. But people think when they're watching the news, they don't understand that the news is for entertainment value.
When it's entertainment. That's what I'm saying. Like when your commentator has sources that are reliable. So it like I said, like you remember when all the news anchors were ugly. Well, it's no point. I'm just saying, like, do you remember when news anchors were unattractive? That's not entertaining.
That's true.
Like,
it is media.
Truth isn't entertaining. The lie is entertaining.
Right.
So if the lie is more entertaining than the truth, then why tell you the truth? Right. I can sprinkle the truth on top of the lie, but that's like putting salt on like bread. Like that ain't gonna make it taste better.
All right, so let's hold that thought. We're gonna take our first break, and when we come back, we're gonna look at this and some other stuff in current events on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Attention sports fans, tailgate season is here, but you can't keep doing what's been done. It's time for a change. A change? Yes, a change. This year, take your tailgate game to the next level with mobile tailgate parties. That's right, mobile tailgate parties. Throwing all-inclusive tailgate parties since 2011. What? All-inclusive? Yes, all-inclusive. Rent the ultimate tailgate party trailer for the day or the weekend. We'll even travel out of town to do your party. Throwing the best party couldn't get any easier. Our fleet of trailers range in size and price from economy to deluxe. Each trailer comes equipped with a large screen TV, coolers, audio connections for music and amplified sound, satellites to broadcast your game, a grill, and the ladies' favorite part, a private bathroom. No more porta potties for your guests. Score! Or upgrade your experience. The deluxe tailgate experience could include event consulting, a grill master, green-egg grilling, multiple TVs, tents, chairs, a DJ, host, and more. The big game is coming, so get your free quote today at 678-516-1312. That's 678-516-1312. Or visit us on the web at www.mobiletailgateparties.net. That's www.mobiletailgateparties.net. Be the envy of the lot this season with mobile tailgate parties.
Leadership Blend, where we're simplifying your
Nah, it is organized.
Yeah.
Because you're not seeing a lot of children.
All right, bye. We are back on this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice, and my correspondents,
Kyle Andrew.
Double R.
And Simone Cherie.
All right, on the break, tell us what we were looking at on the break, Simone.
So we were talking about the migrant caravan situation just recently. So essentially, President Trump has announced that he's weighing on a plan to shut down the U.S. border to Central Americans and deny them the opportunity to seek asylum. So on Monday, the 21st, the first group of about 1,000 immigrants that they believe are from Central America and mostly Guatemala and Honduras arrived at the southern border of the United States. Now that number is at about 3,000 people. There's been a lot of coverage of this on NBC, on MSNBC, where they've actually showed live the people who were at the caravan. There was a bridge coming through the southern border that essentially immigration officials were worried would give way, and people just began to use the river. Washington Post said that the president wants to use his authority to enforce the Immigration and Nationality Act and basically ban people from asylum, saying it would be detrimental to the national interest. And officials are basically saying that this is due to the size. So there's over 3,000 people. They don't know how many women, children per se. So this is about 900 miles from what most of us would consider the border per se. But this is the biggest arrangement of an influx of technically illegal immigrants that I think we've ever seen. So there's talks going on with Guatemala right now. There's talks going on with the president of Mexico right now, trying to figure out what we're going to do with basically over 1,000 impoverished families. They said there are children, but they're surviving mostly on handouts from volunteer workers, from the rescue mission, including a U.S. Peace Corps operation that has been basically passing out supplies and sundries and stuff to all the people at the border who cannot get in. But Trump doesn't seem to be giving way on granting them asylum. And I was just looking at this footage, was just kind of like, wow, this is a lot of people at once. And I don't even really know how you handle a situation like this. They've sent troops from the National Guard that they said they're going to increase now by about 2,000 by next week. By as soon as Friday, which is today.
So think about it. It's 3,000 people. You get 2,000 people with guns to go and handle 3,000 people that's just trying to get in the country. Like I said on the break, this is not new. This isn't new. You know what this looked like when you put that many people on a bridge? If you think back to civil rights. You just got people trying to walk across the bridge and they say
Edmund Pettis.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like that. But it's gonna look worse because we've never seen like I said, if you look at those pictures and you watch those videos, it's not as many children as we assume. They're children, but they're not as you remember they were showing the stuff from Southern California and Texas where it was like babies. You don't see a lot of that. And like I said, this is organized. Mm-hmm. This is organized. Clearly. We've seen this where people when they start to pay attention to your tactics, all right, we send 10 people, y'all catch 10 people, y'all take the 5 families together, and then y'all split them up. All right, cool. All right, now we're going to send 50 people. So now you can only catch the 10 because you're paying attention to the 10. Now we got 40 more just getting across. So if we send 1,000.
So it's the divide and conquer thing. We'll divide up.
I think
your
so.
troops.
They're paying attention. These people trying to get into the country, because Trump called them dumb. He said they're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They're just going with no food and no water, just trying to get into the country. Pay attention to the tactic, my guy.
Yeah, and now it looks like a humanitarian crisis as well. But the second thing is because we made it illegal to enter the United States, and now people are going through ICE. If they're caught, how are you going to arrest 3,000 plus people? How are you going to prosecute those people?
And where are you going to put them?
Exactly, we would be overwhelmed. There's still children who have not been reunited with their families.
This America. They're not going to arrest them people.
But Trump is trying. So Trump is talking to Mexico because he's trying to get Mexico to take them. They technically, obviously, get here through Mexico. So even though a lot of these people are from Guatemala, they're from Central America, but they're entering through Mexico. And Trump is basically saying, you need to keep these people. And the president of Mexico, or I guess Mexican authorities, are saying, well, they are technically on your land now. We're not going to take these people. They're not our people. They're not necessarily Mexican citizens. So it's now they're in this weird place. It's what are you going to do with 3,000 people? You cannot put them all in detention centers at once.
No, you cannot.
And there are a lot of children, and they're all supplies will dwindle. How would you possibly coordinate that?
If you do, we'll see. The history repeats itself. This is not the first time this has happened. That's what I'm saying. What I've said a couple shows in a row, You have to pay attention to history. This is not the first time this has happened. This happened in Europe after the war, where you see 15,000 people just walking like, oh no, we're all Jews. Well, you go into a city that can't take you because Jews are banned in our city. So now what we do with you? Well, now you see a detention center pop up here, and you see one pop up here, and then families start disappearing. And well, what are we going to do with all these people? And then 3,000 people just die because you can't feed that many people. Yeah. You can't give 15,000 people snacks and expect them to survive. We're going to see this escalate so fast. When you say you're going to send armed military troops to a bridge to secure, it's about to get ugly.
This is almost like a forced amnesty situation, I think, because the United Nations is already involved. And what does it look like to have that many? Whatever journey that they had coming here, even if they came from Mexico, hundreds of miles, women, children, it's not possible. And so the president tweeted yesterday. He said, "To those in the caravan, turn around. We are not letting people into the United States illegally. Go back to your country." Is that a capital C on purpose? And if you want, apply for citizenship like millions of others are doing. And it's like, that sounds well and good, but how do you not grant all of these people how do you get around amnesty?
Well, I guess my fear is there is nothing new under the sun, but the variables in this situation are different. We're not dealing with a moral president. We're dealing with a president who will get the job done by any means. So what has happened in history, there lies in the problem. What does that mean?
It also means that when we saw this the last time, somebody that we assumed to not, I don't assume that the president is an immoral person. I don't think he's one of those people that's just like, nah, I don't even care. I think that he's the guy that will do whatever he has to do to be popular. Like that girl that's in school.
What does that mean?
This is important to his
that'll get
base.
it popping just to be cool with everybody in the school. So she's cool with the football team and she's cool with the basketball team, but they call her names behind her back. Same thing we see with Trump.
But that's the question.
That mean that you're willing to do anything.
There lies in the problem. So what will happen in this situation?
It's a problem to us because we've never seen it. That's what I'm saying about history. When news could only be news, because usually you wouldn't hear about this if you was in New York. You wouldn't hear about this if you was if you were in Oregon. You hear about this if you was in Texas or Arizona or California, because you're right there. It's different now. When everybody has an eye and an ear to what you're doing, now everybody got to pay attention. He doesn't have to satisfy everybody. His base isn't everybody. His base are those same people that hire you at your job and talk bad about you behind your back. That's what we're going to see. This, like I said, when you send 2,000 troops to a bunch of unarmed people, it's going to get real ugly, because those people are going to get scared and retaliate. And then somebody's going to die, and the first thing that you're going to say is that they were criminals.
They killed. They slaughtered. It's going to look like, slaughtering.
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be I sound but this is going to be ugly, because that's what I studied. The history behind tactics like this is going to get real. It's going to get ugly, and nobody's going to do anything.
Justified, or will it need to be justified? Like if you think about the Kavanaugh situation, for Trump to be talking about something as serious as sexual assault, like an act of violence, and to say, well, we won, then maybe it could be that lots of people will get hurt, and his answer will be, I did what I said I would do, because his base still very much cares about immigration. Like Reuters ran a poll about what Republicans are running on, and I think we've all kind of talked about Trump being like the sole issue for the midterms. Like, do you support Trump or not? If you're a Republican, they're just like, well, how do you feel about the president? But people still really care about immigration. People still, the border wall, the big old wall, the big beautiful wall he swore he was going to pay for, that now he has admitted that he cannot pay for, still has not happened. So immigration is still a problem, and now that we've made it illegal, ICE is even more backed up. Like the immigration courts are 6 months to 18 months behind with people who are not citizens, who are not going back to their own country, and who have a lot of times been separated from their children. Now add 3,000 people plus to that. Like, what are you going to? I think what's going to ultimately happen is we're going to end up paying for this. We're going to end up paying for it. They're going to probably, I don't know how you prop up a detention center overnight, but I expect to see a lot more cages. I expect to see a lot more money go into prosecuting people who are not even citizens and are basically going to be stuck in our court system like a gridlock. Meanwhile, like we've already seen kids that have been hurt, kids that have been trapped in cages. This big humanitarian crisis is going to come out of this. which is not making our country secure. It's clearly what we've already done is not stopping people from coming. Clearly.
Well, the reason why you wouldn't stop somebody from coming is because I can lock a person up and make $30,000 to $90,000 a year off your body being in jail.
No, but these aren't jails. That's the thing. Like, we're paying for this.
No, we paid to build the detention center. We won't have to pay to keep you there.
There's no money to be made, I don't believe, off of illegal. They're not citizens. There's
This
no money
America.
to be made. There's
This
no money to
America.
be made. We are paying for this. Like, trust me. This ICE is funded. This is a government funded operation. Taxpayers do pay for it.
So I guess that's different, though.
We pay for it, but it's the study the tactics. This is a tactic that has been used multiple times. They used it during slavery. They used it after World War I. They used it after World War II. They used it after Vietnam. They used it during. These tactics have always been used during and after war. What we're seeing is like the before war. Before people start dying for real, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people, hey, we just want asylum. We just want to come here. It's very bad where I'm coming from.
Exactly.
That's all right, cool. You trying to apply to be a citizen? Well, you can't apply to be a citizen if you're a criminal. Like, you're automatically denied. And coming from where you're coming from, depending on where you're coming, we could probably find out if you're a criminal or not. Well, these are people that literally do not speak English.
Right.
So we don't even have to talk to you. No, come on. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to give you a spot. Hey, open up cage number 121. I'm going to put you in that cage. And then the same companies, because this is what they fail to tell you, the same companies that feed people in jail is the same companies that's volunteering to give these people food. Them little snack packs, look at the news. You'll see the snack, if anybody's ever been to jail, or you know jail term, you know what a snack pack look like. Look at the companies that make the snack packs. These are the same companies that feed people in jail. The cookie companies, the chip companies, the companies that make those sack lunches that they give to you when you're in jail. It's the same company that's supplying it. So you can't sit here and tell me that nobody's going to make any money, because somebody has to be repaid for that. Somebody's going to make money of that. And if you can find a way to criminalize people that don't have nowhere to go, somebody's going to make money.
Okay.
It is a crime to come into the country.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I think that's going to be the problem. The question is, who's going to foot the bill? That's going to be the question.
The taxpayers are going to foot
Well,
that, which is basically what I'm saying.
You can,
we are not
we'll,
going to
we'll
benefit
fit
from
the
this.
bill, but now it is in law for if you come into this country without applying for citizenship, it is a crime.
Yeah.
We'll immediately see it come out of our pockets. We won't see who'll get paid from it. We
Well,
won't
true,
see
true.
the think about it. We've only been talking about this for the last year and a half. Imagine how long they've been doing this. Imagine how many Elisas coming from Mexico who are now Melissas or now Ashleys. All those kids. Think about how long this is. This isn't a new issue.
It's not, but President Obama did not put the kind of money and manpower behind enforcing those laws in the same way. He did deport citizens, but he did not put money into pushing them through the court system and criminal. He didn't enforce those laws. They were on the books, but he never enforced them. He did deport people.
Because he viewed it as a loss of time. Not a loss of money. It's a loss of time.
But it costs money to go through the court system. Like it is difficult to track down. Like the process of trying to seek asylum, you have to claim it first. So someone goes and claims asylum. All that has to be essentially researched. Basically, it's an investigation that takes place, just like any other court system, to prove that you are seeking what you claim to be seeking, whether it's domestic violence, political violence, some sort of humanitarian crisis. All that has to be traced back before you can even. Way before you even get a hearing, because they have to do that process first. So it costs money because ICE people have to be paid. Attorneys, law enforcement, they all have to be paid while you're going through the court system.
Well, I guess my question is, when you talk about the detention center or detaining somebody versus jailing somebody. Jailing somebody is, I guess, where we have to, feed them, make sure they're comfortable, all that good stuff. Detaining somebody, does it have the same connotation? Because yeah, but when we detain you,
it's the same.
We don't expect to keep you. It's detaining you to stop you from doing something.
Well, we don't expect to keep these people. We don't expect to keep them. Like, not always.
There's a difference. There's a subtle difference.
There's
got to be a difference.
For this instance, there's no difference. And the reason that there's no difference is because it doesn't matter how long. When you go to pretrial is detainment, but that's jail. So no matter how long you're there,
True.
I'll make money off of you being there. I have to spend money to feed you. I have to spend money to pay people to watch you. I have to spend money to keep the lights on and make sure that the water's there so you'll have something to drink. But I'm going to make money while you're there. The problem is that we're not seeing the number of men and women being sent to prison. They're not showing us those numbers.
Yeah.
They're telling us that we have 15,000 people in detainment.
Right. Well, I don't know if we've got there yet. Like, that's why I don't get why this is smart. What are you going to do if someone's like, okay, you lied, you're not seeking asylum, or the asylum you're escaping is not, you're not eligible for citizenship? Then what? Then you're actually going to put them in an American jail like you would an American citizen? No,
Yep.
They're probably going to be sent back. Which is like, why did we spend 2 years prosecuting someone who's like, what? We're going to now house an American? That's crazy to me.
I don't think they'll send everybody back because you got to think about it.
Well, we should
look at the like I said, this is the history has shown us that every time you let somebody out of jail, you got to replace that body. That's $30,000 a year that you're about to lose. How can I replace that body? By criminalizing something that has never been criminalized before in history. In history, it is you have a sovereign nation in America, and then an almost sovereign nation, which is Mexico, and then the countries that surround it, Central America, but they're not sovereign. We don't view them as sovereign. So you're coming from a country known for having drug wars, known for most of your people that come from there usually come here with drugs, to buy drugs, to sell drugs. That's the assumption. This is not me saying this, but that's the assumption. So you got 10,000 people over the last 3 years that we've caught. That's the number they say we caught. Upward of 10,000. I know it's more than that. I know it's more.
I'm sure.
The reason that I know it's more is because every time I've ever did a volunteer work at jail, the number one people that I see in jail, they don't look like me. And this Georgia, they don't look like me. Go to Cobb County Jail. Go to Clayton County Jail. Go to Fayetteville. They don't look like me. They don't look like us. They don't look like they not white. Go there and you'll see that most of them don't even speak English.
Seriously?
No, I believe.
Go to
that.
Fayetteville.
Brown and black people
Fayetteville
like
is a private jail. Private. So all the money that they make in Fayetteville is Fayetteville money. But I also don't have to claim your name because you're a criminal.
This is true.
I don't have to claim your name. But if you commit a crime and I assume that you committed a crime, before I prosecute you, I can just hold you.
Exactly.
I can hold you. We seen it in New York. We see the reason why they're trying to close all these super big jails is because we can close a big prison and build 10 small ones.
Yeah.
And do the exact same thing. So in Southern California, if we close San Quentin, which is one of the largest jails in California, if we close it, we can split it up and build 10 San Quentins. But they just like babies.
But the political gains here, I feel like, are very small. Because
They are.
The point is to stop immigration, to stop the inflow of illegal immigrants. So really, the fact that thousands and thousands of more people are lining up to get in the country, that is not stopping it to me. Or the consequences of illegal immigration, according to Trump, are supposedly that so many jobs are lost, that there's so much crime that occurs. But the jobs lost that affect the economy.
But what jobs?
Well, probably agricultural jobs or even service jobs. But the fact that those are lost and that's costing us money, I don't see how we're offsetting that by spending a lot of money in the court system, prosecuting them as criminals. Like the court system, the American court system, I feel like is strapped as it is. Their over-criminalization of American citizens as it is. I don't see why we want illegal immigrants or even foreigners in American jails. That to me is absolutely crazy.
I just told you they don't have to do the work. I can lock you up without having to do the work. And then I can sit on it until we eventually get to it.
Well, wait, but I guess that segues us to another question.
But how is that keeping people out of the country, I guess is my point. Like, how is that?
It doesn't.
But let's take another outlook,
if you can criminalize, if I can criminalize you even being here, like when you were a slave and you were caught when the sun was down, it's a crime. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. That, like what we was talking about, these laws that still exist that are on the books, that is still law. Like if you're a criminal and you get out of jail on parole, you have to be in the house before the lights come on.
All right, so let's take this let's look at this from another angle.
Okay.
So we're talking about federal. So let's talk about states.
Okay.
So how does this affect states? Because and you actually brought this up, Kyle, before I told you no, but then I didn't know we were gonna go here when you were talking about Keisha Lance and
in ICE.
In ICE.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so sometime in September, Mayor Bottoms signed an executive order transferring of all remaining U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainees out of the city jail and declaring that Atlanta will no longer hold anyone for the federal agency. So I guess that poses the question. So how does that affect states? So now we're putting these detainees in state jails. So the only person that's winning,
there's no such thing as state jails.
Well, I mean,
there's city jail and then state prison.
So is that she's saying that they're not gonna hold migrants for
immigrants?
Yeah, for
so
ISIS. They're no longer.
So what does that mean though? That Atlanta's a sanctuary city?
No. They're trying to stop. They're trying to stop Atlanta from becoming this. They're trying to stop Georgia from becoming the sanctuary state.
I see.
So if we can ship out, because I think when I looked online, they said it's maybe like 3,000 statewide, but it's not a lot in the city of Atlanta. Atlanta has like a lot of small jails, so you got like Atlanta, DeKalb County, like it's a lot of small jails, but Georgia has a lot of jails. And it's a few prisons.
A lot of counties.
It doesn't cost much to hold somebody in prison.
Yeah,
you can't charge because I can keep you in jail, but we charge that to the city. That doesn't make any money for the state. So I can ship you somewhere else, especially if the Fed isn't paying us. So we have to charge your body and then expect to get that money back. So if your body is worth 30 bands, we're probably only going to get half that back a year. Well, that's cost. What they're going to do with all these people is about to be, like I said, it's going to be real ugly. Look at it over the next 12 months. It's going to be real ugly. Because imagine if every state, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. Imagine if all those states, that's 9 states, have 3,000 people just here. Hey, we detaining them. They cross country. That's 27,000 people that you got to all detain and send them to one place. If we see a prison pop up over the next 2 years that can hold 5,000 people, you're going to see 5 more. And then you're going to see 5 more.
It's
going to get real an expensive, ugly,
and ineffective solution.
But it's expensive in the short term. And I don't think they're looking at short term. I think that business, prison and jail, it's a business. Those people don't care nothing about nothing. So they will find a way to put pressure on politicians to criminalize people that's not supposed to be here because they view like, this is my land. What you doing here?
I'm saying that because I don't believe it's going to work. I just don't, not with this many people and not with so many eyes, like between social media and all these news outlets. I don't believe that you're going to be able. I don't believe you're going to be able to get away with
and that's why I said
systematic arrest or
you won't see systematic arrest. You'll see extermination. That many people on a bridge.
I agree.
That we view it like morally, like, man, this about to be real.
Yeah, but like you said, though,
I feel like his hand's been forced.
But that's why I'm saying
his hand is going to be forced.
Trump is going to say we have an excuse. They fear for that. You don't send 2,000 troops to a city for what? The last time we seen that, black people got stomped out on a bridge. They got sprayed out in the streets. This is going to get ugly, and the excuse is going to be that they were here illegally. They tried to escape. They tried to fight back, and we had no other choice. This is going to get ugly. Like, there's no other way to say it. It's going to get ugly. It doesn't matter how expensive.
Because
it doesn't
President
matter how
Trump
much it
will not just say, listen.
He's not going to be the guy.
We're going to have to grant amnesty to these people.
He's not going to do that. He's not going to have the conversation. He's not going to talk to him. He make that one phone call that he say he made to the Mexican president. Bro, don't care. He like, hey, these folks from Guatemala. They walking here. 430 miles. They're walking from Honduras here. And now they on your land because you said the land that was our land is now your. Hey, they on that side of the line.
Yeah, but exploring your thought that you said that you don't think we're dealing with a completely immoral president.
I don't think that he's completely immoral.
But
he's the girl.
Spraying 3,000 people.
He's the girl.
And
even if you,
yeah, but even if you take out the fact that President Trump is not the most diplomatic president we've ever had, following the ideology that so many eyes around the world have access to this at any given moment, not 3 days later, not a week later,
It's going to be
me, I think about
live
he's
streams.
still gonna have to do the right thing.
I think so too, and I say that because he's had to do this on occasions before. Like,
but I don't think they're gonna spray down 3,000.
I think if he could get away with it, I think he absolutely would, because I don't believe he's a moral person, which means that you're amoral. For me, it's one or the other. I think you're either a moral person or you're not. So I do believe if he could get away with it,
I think he crosses that line.
But yeah, he is amoral, but he's very proud. Now, I've seen him do this before. There was another situation where he had to kind of recant and say, okay, this just isn't right. And I think it actually was. He even made this comment with Michael Brown before. Like, he has had to say when the heat was on, when the cameras were on him, this isn't a good idea. He had to come out and denounce the fact that children were being separated from their parents.
Yes.
He had to do, like, he's an egoist before anything else. I don't believe he's like a crazy sociopath who just likes to do things. I don't believe he's a joker.
I don't think he's cold-hearted.
I don't think he's a joker. I think he's an egomaniac. And so I think for his own ego's sake, he will have to.
But I think that in America, and we've seen these people come, when you see a 90-year-old dude like, nope, everything he says is right. Get rid of the blacks and the browns and the when you hear those people come out and speak, those are the dudes sitting on them checks.
And that's another thing about this, too, to me that's so shocking, is that Republicans are still so obsessed with immigration and have spent so much money. The Reuters poll I was talking about before is that over $240 million in ads are like immigration-targeted ads. And I think if it wasn't Kemp, maybe it was Casey Cagle who was running. It was a Georgia candidate who had that commercial in his pickup truck saying, "I'll round him up and get him myself." And it was just like, but and then you like look at these shots and there's like thousands of people and it's like, round them up, like. All
right, so let me throw in two things. One, for those that do not know what ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So we throwing around terms that people probably like, I don't know what that means.
They cops, bro.
I hear it.
They the
ops. But that's what ICE, and it is spelled like ice that you put in a drink. It's ICE, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Explain the difference.
Of what?
So when we think enforcement, we think like law enforcement. Like you travel, usually they travel 9 or 45 clip, extra clip. The gun hold about 12 to 15
How do you know this? Like, how do you know this?
No, I'm just telling you so people understand what we're looking at. So you think you're talking about a person that walks around with a gun, 2 pair of handcuffs, a nightstick, and about 15. So about 45 to 55 bullets on them at a time. ICE is not that. ICE is I walk around with the joint on me. This one holds 30. I got another 30 and another 30. And then I got 15 plus 30 more. That's what they walking around like. And then they ride around in their vehicles that got the shotgun. The shotgun hold 8. I got at least 15 more shells.
How do you know these numbers?
But think about the context, though. The context is that when it comes to immigration, you could be talking about foreign entities. You could be talking about jihadists. You could be talking about terrorists, which Trump has tried to say there's Middle Easterners that could be getting through in these caravans. So they're protected because they're immigration enforcement, which means that people could have bombs on them. They're not thinking about like common criminals like police.
Yeah, so the difference when you say enforcement, because that's how people are going to look at it. Oh, they're just policing the border. Now, they doing way more than policing the border because this thing is ugly. Yeah. It shows on YouTube and that used to be on TV where they show you how violent this thing can get. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the scariest part for me. Because if this turns violent, and we've seen it turn violent before. This happened like in the 80s where the cartels were coming across that border and having like shootouts. Like, nah, bro, we coming. I don't care what you're talking about. We coming. We here. We come in here. And y'all gonna have to either shoot us down or y'all gonna have to let us in. And that's the scary part about this because we don't know who they are. So even if you get them in and you give them asylum and you put them in the detainment centers and then they get out, we don't know what they do. That we don't know who they are. We don't know how violent this thing can get. Nobody knows. And I think that's what we're starting to see with Trump. Like, he don't know what to say or what to do. But if it gets ugly, I believe that if other people stand behind him, he'll go out and stand on it. Hey, we had to do what we have to do. Like she said, it's one of those things like I don't view him as like the cold-hearted snake. I view him like his blood might be a little lukewarm. But he's the girl that's like, if I'm popular today, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to be popular. And then if my popularity go down tomorrow, I'm going to say something or do something to make sure I'm more popular. This thing is going to get nasty. And I hope I prayed that these children, that they don't hurt these kids, because they talking about they got 5,500 kids just not like in a jail cell. We ain't talking about like a 5x4 or 5x5 in a cage. Like for like a big dog, they stacking these kids on top of each other, putting them in cages, letting them sleep on the floor, letting them like won't got enough bathrooms, so here go a little bucket.
Losing track of them as well.
We don't know their names, so we tagging them and giving them a number. Like that
not prepared
thought.
For this. We're not prepared.
We're
for
not
this.
ready to. We can't figure out what to do with 600,000 people in jail right now.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure that part out, but we know what they worth. We know that if we can make some money off of it, why not put another 600,000 in jail? It makes you start to think like this complex of like just throwing people in jail, make their little money, eventually let them out, throw them back in jail. Like how long can you do that before it's just like people start to realize like, nah, they just doing this to get the checkup.
Yep.
All right, so on that note, we're going to take our second break, and when we come back, we're going to lighten the mood with a little entertainment. So stick around, the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Are you an entrepreneur, high-profile influencer, or creative that wants to level up in your business? If you are ready to elevate mentally, stand out visually, and dominate digitally, the Brand Doctor has the remedy. As a highly sought-after mindset coach and brand strategist, she helps clients globally to hit the ground running. Contact www.moebrandstudio.com or email getbranded@moebrandstudio.com.
From the Leadership Blend, airing every Monday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on IBNX Radio Talk. And
Hit Megan Kelly.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are back on this Friday edition of the Leadership Boom with the host Ricardo D. Rice and my correspondents
Kyle Andrew.
Double R.
And Simone Cherie.
All right, so now we're going to shift it because, like I told you, we had two objectives on the show, which we hadn't accomplished either one of them at this point. We haven't accomplished either one of them at this point. But the first one we're going to get to in the end, that's the whole voting in Georgia and why is it so important and what's going on. And then the second one was to put intern Kyle's feet to the fire and really make him go to his next level. So I'm going to turn this segment over to him. This is more of the entertainment to kind of lighten the mood. So, Kyle, take it away.
All right, so if y'all haven't heard, Megyn Kelly has made another racist comment on her daytime talk show. She's made plenty of other comments. She once said that black people, the black community, suffers from thug mentality because they are seen as anti-cops. In 2017, she said it is a verified fact that Santa Claus is white. And she says, quote, "My guess is that there would be no Christmas if he looks like a black or brown dude because he's probably on the no-flight list." So recently, she said that she does not understand how blackface when you're in a costume is offensive to the black community.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm not all that familiar with Megyn Kelly. Yeah. But again, you read a headline and you're like, people keep talking about a headline and it starts trending and you're like, what is really going on? So when I went back, that's when they did CNN did a whole span on it and they did like a little video and I saw the video about the Santa Claus and she was like,
she said fact and Santa Claus at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just like, she was like, Santa Claus is white. That's what it is.
What's so funny? Yeah, what's so funny about Megyn Kelly is that we view this thing like a Megyn Kelly problem, and it's not. She is like other people that don't look like us, that don't understand us. Like, you don't view something as offensive when, like, you're the offender.
This is true.
But, so, Kyle, is she getting... Is her show canceled?
They axed the show.
They canceled. I think I heard.
Like
I thought
the day that the day after, they was like, "Oh no, we no longer. No, that's not. No."
Oh, okay.
But I don't understand after the Santa Claus comment. I don't understand why I didn't get axed in.
So she wasn't on the show. So she was on Fox News. I've been following her since I guess. I mean, she's been on an anchor on Fox for a long time. But she left after the sex scandal, and she's been like a Me Too movement supporter because she had a claim of sexual assault against the executive at that time, just like, Gretchen something did. I can't remember her name. But she didn't expect to be on daytime. Like, I know it's a new show for her, and I know that with her personality, she's always been a very political person and political pundit, and she's a former prosecutor, and if you listen to her speak, that's kind of how she sounds. Almost like I feel like Mark Zuckerberg sounds like a programmer instead of a person. I feel like she sounds like a prosecutor instead of a person. And she on daytime was very weird, but I did watch a couple episodes of her because I just wanted to see what her personality would be like, and she's like so weird in these like forced happy situations. She said she just wanted to do like human interest stories and like nice stuff because she was so tired of all the negativity of like political reporting. And I was like, that's so cool. Like, she gets to kind of like have lighter conversations, but she brought her same personality.
Well, you can, a leopard can't change his spots, and with
she's
Megyn,
not a daytime person.
Exactly. And some people just do not need to be on daytime television. That's just some people are after hours.
She's also one
type
of those people like who doesn't understand. Like, you white, you don't need to stop asking questions like, so why is it offensive for me to put blackface on? Like, I just want to be black for Halloween. Shut up. Like,
that's
I have.
So do you have the specifics
on it? That's what she said.
That's all she said. That's all she said.
That's
but
all
I don't
she
understand
said.
how she doesn't know the history of it because it was used to degrade black people when we were put in movies because they wouldn't put us on TV. So if you've ever seen what's the name of that movie, The Birth of a Nation?
Yeah.
That movie was filled with blackface.
Her quote, she said, "What is racist?" What she asked. So she started out the segment talking about political correctness on Halloween, and I don't know if the segment was introduced to kind of like warn people or like just pick.
Well, I think because I saw bits and pieces. I think the segment was introduced because they were talking about Halloween costumes.
Yeah,
and it just kind of went left from there.
I remember her saying like it seems like everything's going to offend people. She said that she said, "quote You get in trouble if you're a white person who puts on blackface or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween." But she said when I was a kid, it was okay as long as you're dressing like a character. And she referenced one of the housewives who I guess dressed up as Diana Ross and had like tan makeup, not blackface like we would imagine in a minstrel show or anything related to Jim Crow. But she said she had a little tan makeup and people called it blackface. And then she said that she didn't think that was racist. She thought that was an homage. And as long as you weren't doing that every day, then it wasn't racist. Honestly, I feel like it wasn't. I felt like she was a confused white person.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that.
My impression was she was genuinely confused. Now, can she be educated? I don't know. But
Nah,
I didn't
she's
hear
stuck in
her
her
say,
ways.
I
Well,
don't
I think
see
she's
why.
a facts person, though. So if I present the facts that this is why this particular class of people are offended when you do this to mimic them, she's a fact person. So I feel like she'd be like, oh, I didn't look at it from that way.
She was checked by other white people at the table. Like, there was no black people at the blackface discussion table.
Yeah.
But Melissa Rivers was at the table, and she said, I think normal people understand that line. Like, I think she got checked on air, like, as it was going on.
Yeah,
people were just like, we know better.
That's
we're
because
not confused.
people are like confused or like
She
the
is, and a lot of
definition
certain people are
of
confused.
racist.
Yeah.
She said, what is racist?
Because
That
you
was
get
her actual
bigots and you
question.
get racist. Okay, so here's my thing about this. I feel the times have changed. So I agree with you. The variables have not, but the times have changed. It's just like in this situation, I think about Roseanne Barr. The whole Roseanne Barr and the Valerie lady was not new for Roseanne. You're talking about a lady who sang the national anthem years ago and then gave everybody the finger. This was not new.
And
The
she's a
call to
comedian.
action was stronger in this particular situation. I feel like it's the same thing with Megan. The call to action on this particular subject was so strong that the network had to step in and say, you know what? We know you done this. We know that you're this person, but you can't be this person in this space.
So
you
what
just
do you,
can't.
So what do you think about? So Thursday, she got a standing ovation when she went on air and apologized. She was very emotional. She said that her comments were inappropriate and that she said we were having a Halloween discussion, and she lost sight of the fact that the issue of blackface is bigger than just Halloween, because she kept hammering down the point. Well, it's Halloween. It's Halloween. So she did try to apologize for that, and she got a standing ovation in the audience, and they panned around to all the color folk in the audience to
I was about to
show
say, who
that
was in
they
the audience?
approved of her apology.
Yeah, but if you got 7 black people in your audience, like don't nobody
That's
care.
not a general consensus of black folks.
But but I think, like you said, like understanding, there has to be an understanding, especially from black people, that white people generally don't understand us. They don't understand why things that they say and do can be viewed as racist. We don't understand that everything could be viewed as racist. We don't understand that. So what we have to do is start to realize, like, these people just don't understand us. And there's a lot of people that don't want to understand us. That's not their fault, because you're taught to be prejudiced like that. That's not something that you just learn, like it's just innate in your blood. Like, you know what? I don't even like black. So everything related to black, I don't even like that. So everything that's around me gonna be white. Like you're taught to be like that. You're taught by TV, by news and media that like black people are bad people or black people are wrong, or it's cool to make fun of them in their face when they don't know that you're doing it.
Well, it's that, and you can't tell your history without getting into the oppression of another race.
But
and if history teaches you, keeps
but that's
you
the part of their
perpetuating-
history that they like to overlook, because they feel like they invented everything, and the advent of tech and the everything that we're seeing in industry that they did is like, my God, like look at the names on them patents. Look at the names related to the people. Look at the people that we know that created it, and then look at the people who put their name on it. Like, we know this stuff.
All right, but hold on. So, what's your thoughts on it, Kyle? Because we're not going to take over. So, what is your thoughts on this? What is your thoughts?
I think honestly that she should have known better than to say that. Like you said, you can't really blame white people, but I think that they should know their history. So are you saying that the general public, people in the general public that are white don't know about the blackface history?
No, I'm definitely not saying that we can't blame them, because we can definitely blame them. What's perpetuated, especially in media, is them. You should know that if you've ever seen The Birth of a Nation or ever heard about The Birth of a Nation, that the producer was white. All of the actors except for one was white. All of them. So it's only one black lady on that scene, and she didn't get paid. So when you realize, like, the white people playing black people were white in blackface, and you can see their necks and their arms and their hands is white.
Yeah.
Like, when you can see that stuff, you don't bring up blackface. If
Right.
you wanna dress up, or if you wanna be Diana Ross, or you wanna be Black Michael Jackson, or you wanna be a football player, just go do it.
That's what
I'm gonna criticize you for it later, but
I
don't.
think you can do
No.
it without the face paint.
Right.
though.
That's
But
what I was going to say. It's
I
like,
think that for children, like if you're saying as a child or as an adult, you idolize Tina Turner, you want to dress up like Tina Turner. Tina Turner ain't white. But don't say like, oh, I'm gonna put on blackface. Why are you calling it blackface?
No, they don't call it blackface. People see it and they're like, you doing blackface because they are. Like Tina Turner has a lot more to her. You can get the shaky dress, you can get the wig, you can be Tina Turner without that.
Yeah, but
you
the
don't
question.
Need to, the problem is that when they do it, they always make us look. A, they make us look filthy. B, skin cannot. My race is not makeup. It can't be. It's what it is. It's not something that comes on and off. So the idea that you can be white one day and then you can be black for Halloween, that is offensive to me because you're not. Like I can't be Latino. I can't adopt all that means. And it's like a white privilege situation of you just feeling like, oh, I want to be black today. Like she made a comment about, well, blacks can't wear whiteface. I've seen some people try, like we've seen.
Who want to do it?
Well, who wants to?
Actually,
but also, even if you're getting outside of like white chicks and the Wayans brothers, we cannot be whiter in any avenue. We cannot be white in a job or walking down the street. So it's not okay for you to be black just because it's Halloween. Like I'm not a costume. You're not a costume. So it is a problem. But what I also say though is that I think that we gotta kind of we can't be petty.
Yes.
And certain things I do believe are okay when people are genuinely curious. Some people are genuinely curious or confused, and other people are just bigots. And when people ask an actual question like, well, what is racist, or what draws the line, or why is it answering that question is a lot more productive than why is she doing this, or why is she doing that?
It's also offensive if you don't ask us. If you ask a table full of white people,
yeah, I agree.
What's racist about me wanting to dress up in blackface, I should be able to throw a pie at all y'all. Just show up to your set and hit you in the face with a pie. And then you tell me what's offensive about hitting you with a face. Like, you can't ask a table full of white people how it feels to be black and feel that something is racist. Yes. Like, even if black people can't always justify why something is racist to them, the fact that they feel that way, you have to acknowledge it. And then you have to have the conversation.
That's where I disagree. Because I think that people, it's either racist or it's not. That's where I disagree. Like the Kendall Jenner situation where she was on the Vogue cover and the people said that, why does she have an afro? Like Instagram was so upset. They said they're always trying to turn white women into black women. They act like they couldn't find a black model. We used to have to burn our hair and we couldn't wear our afros. And now Kendall Jenner has an afro. And people were so upset and Vogue apologized and Kendall Jenner apologized. She's probably still traumatized from the Sprite commercial, the Pepsi commercial.
Pepsi, that was, yeah.
But that is not, A, it was not an afro. And B, it's not about you. Because it's not an afro. It wasn't kinky hair. It was a mess. Like, we can't always also adopt everything as, oh, that's appropriation, or that everything is not appropriation. Everything is not theft. And everything is not racist.
But
everything
I'm saying that
racist.
Things that the consensus would be like, hey, my guy, that's a little racist right there.
Yeah, but that would probably be everything that white people do. I mean,
not everything, but certain things that they appropriate. Like, we know, like, oh, nah, y'all tried that one.
Yeah.
Like, nah, y'all tried that. I feel that it's more productive to at least just be like, hey, this is why we did it. This is with the Kendall Jenner situation. I didn't think that was racist. Like, we know, like, if you've ever seen,
but a lot of people
she's also not like a regular white person.
Why is she like a regular white person?
Because we're not even gonna go there.
We can't even make progress. Every time we get somewhere,
I'm saying you have to understand that all white people aren't like.
Is that an afro? That is not.
Actually, no, that's not an afro.
No, white women in the 70s used to wear their hair like that all the time. Yeah, they tease their hair all the time. You watch Design and Women, what I'm saying, like, there are different type, like the actual biology of certain one, like. You got, like, the regular white people, and then you have the redhead white people. Like, we know scientifically that all of them not the same. We know that. We know that all their hair isn't straight. Some of them got kinky. Sure. They don't got nappy hair, but some of them got the kinky hair. They got the big hair.
Yeah, but then those people are also mixtures.
But Kendall Jenner is white.
Yeah, both of her parents are.
Do the history on her family.
She's white.
Do the history on her family.
She's
not like
Dutch,
white.
English, German. That's as white as white gets.
Yeah,
that's almost as white as just being Swedish.
But American. Yeah, she's Armenian.
No, she's not.
She's not?
She's a Jenner. She's not a Kardashian.
That's true.
She's
that is very
white.
true.
She's as white as Bruce Jenner. She's white.
Right. That's right.
And even if she wasn't, I don't care if you're Tiger Woods and you're half and half. You can't call me an N-word because you half and half. The other half of you thought that was okay to do.
True.
So it's either racist or it's not.
Exactly. You can't give out passes and say, well, she ain't white. No.
OJ to me is out of line. OJ
like,
is not redeemable to me. OJ said what he said, and I still haven't forgiven him. And he can be black. He said, I'm not black, I'm OJ. So you're gonna be OJ for life, sweetheart.
So
you ain't never gonna be black.
You probably not gonna like me because you know I say I'm not black, I'm colored.
I think that's a problem, but we can get there.
But I'm just
We
saying,
can
like,
get there
there are different types of white people.
According to what are we talking about?
None.
Genetically,
just like there are different types of black people. I don't believe that what she did in that picture was racist.
I don't either.
I don't either. But
I
Which
believe
is why we
that
should
if
be
you
consistent as a
you've
black
ever
delegation.
met, like if you
actually I think that's probably we don't have a black
We
delegation.
gotta be consistent.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
you know?
if you've ever met like older Southern white women, their hair look like that on a regular.
Yeah.
On a regular. And I'm saying from some of them that I met, like they aren't just like American bred white people. They're mixed white people. Like you white from here and here. So you see that you'll see that in their skin, where their skin is a little bit darker than like I'm just saying, like from where I'm from, all white people in Florida don't look the same. White people in Florida and white people in Georgia don't look the same.
But they get the same 3 letters on their driver's license. So
They do.
So to
They
me,
do. But it's a bunch of
just like you
Mexicans
can be,
and a
you're
bunch of
black
Cubans.
and you're black and you're black and you're black.
Hey, it's a bunch of Cubans
they're all
in
different
Florida
black,
that claim
but
they
not on
white
paper.
too.
All right, so Kyle, you finished that segment. So because
I pulled up a picture of Julianne Hough dressed up as Crazy Eyes for Halloween a couple years ago. I just wanted to see how y'all felt about this.
See, that's what I'm
'Cause
talking
I
about.
find this incredibly offensive.
Stupid. You can be Crazy Eyes without leave the skin alone.
But
And
but
she
here's
got the
my
name
Make
question.
us look like mud monsters.
But here's my question though: if she had not did the face thing and had not done the hair, would you have known
Get
who
a
she was
name
going
tag.
for?
She has the name tag on.
Yeah,
So
but
you know who
Crazy
she
Eyes.
is.
Yeah, but people probably wouldn't. If she was not done like that, the first thing people did, well, that and besides she did the side thing, so she put up against Obu, whatever. I can't remember her name on top of my head.
I don't know how to say her name.
No, I
Udu-
did, but I have to be looking at it.
Oh, she's so.
Crap! I have to be looking at it to be able to pronounce it. But if she didn't do that, you would probably just say, "Oh, she's inmate number 123." If you didn't read her name tag, which you're not going to instinctively do
Here's what I
because
will
she's in a
tell
jail
you:
jumpsuit.
the integrity and quality of your Halloween costume is not worth it. That's what I will tell you. You being unrecognizably crazy, it's just not important. I don't do Halloween. It's a pagan holiday. I don't believe in it. I don't.
Whoa.
But
That's my
when I
birthday.
was a kid,
So is Christmas.
When I was a kid,
Halloween's
I
my
put on
birthday.
my big blue gown, and I was not white or blonde, but I was Cinderella
Yeah.
GD, and I'll be danged if it was questioned. It was just clear.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It's just not. Don't put on my skin like an accessory.
All right, final thoughts from you because we gave you this
I
segment.
say you can be who you want for Halloween, just don't paint your face. That's what I say.
Yeah.
All right, so I
That's what
want to
they
do.
do.
Or do it and
I
see what
want to do a
happens to
little
you.
more entertainment before we get into the really heavy stuff to finish out. So, over the weekend, actually last week, Netflix canceled Iron Fist. So they did their second
that's
season.
not the only one.
That's it. I know that.
Yeah.
Then, now I'm not gonna lie. Everybody knows I'm a Marvel fan. I love it. I'll go see any movie that's
Me too.
Marvel. I didn't really
boy.
care. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't care. I didn't like that show anyway. It sucked.
did. Yeah.
I didn't care. But then they came back around and canceled Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Now
That's
we got
not
a
it.
problem, Netflix.
Hold on. You have to name all the shows.
Who was the other ones? I'm in Marvel. What was the other one?
Oh no, Netflix just canceled about 8 shows.
Oh no, I'm talking about Marvel. I don't care about the rest of them.
So they canceled
Yeah.
Iron Fist.
Yes.
They canceled
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage. This is the last season of The Punisher. After this
I don't care
season,
about that.
Yeah.
They saying that they don't know if they're going to be able to air Black Lightning on Netflix after this season
yeah.
because of
That's
the
right.
contract with TV. They don't know how they're going to be able to do that. They also canceled. This is the last season of what's the joint?
Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black.
And
This
House
is the
of Cards.
last season,
They can
and House
cancel
of
that.
Cards.
That too.
Now, House of Cards and first of all, we know why House of Cards is ending. It revolves around Kevin Spacey, so
Yeah.
that's why we knew this was the last season.
Should have
That's
been
not.
ended. Yeah.
That's
This
that.
season wasn't as garbage as I thought it was.
They
gonna
hadn't
be,
even
though.
done the season yet, have they? They won't display after January. They haven't done season 6.
They've done a season without him though. Like
They've done a
shows without
season
him.
without him.
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Season 5.
I had no interest.
Season 5. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I thought it was gonna be
Wait,
garbage.
I thought season 5 was when they were phasing him out, but they didn't do a whole season without him. They were
They
phasing him out in
finished the
5.
season without
I
him.
was
Season
say,
6
yeah.
is without him.
Yeah.
But we knew that. And Orange is the New Black has outlived its usefulness. I'm
It
sorry.
has.
Because those last 2 seasons, I didn't even finish season 5 because it was garbage.
I
So
agree.
it's outlived its usefulness. But to the credit of Orange is the New Black and House of Cards, they were the staples in the beginning that really put Netflix in the game.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. Shouts out to them. Unfortunately, you just outlived your usefulness. I think they knew it was coming. Everybody else knew it was coming. It's all good.
And it was 7 seasons. Like,
Exactly. So
how
that
long-
was good for Netflix.
How long is that book? Like,
For Netflix, that was good. Now,
But
my
for the Marvel
problem,
stuff, you
On the
have to
show,
understand.
show.
You have to understand what's happening with Marvel.
I know, but it's the
So,
whole
you have
Disney
to,
and Fox hybrid.
No, you
that
have
too.
to understand what's going on with their films.
What?
So with Iron Fist and Luke Cage in particular, the same thing that happened with Wolverine in particular. So the new band, and it has to do with the comic books. So you see it like on the TV show, a lot of characters that are on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then they have that other show where they introduce certain characters like Cloak and Dagger. Like these characters that are introduced into the Marvel Universe, if you introduce them separately, so you introduce the origin story. So like Daredevil, after, not this season, the next season of Daredevil is the last season of Daredevil on Netflix. And it's because you have to introduce them to the universe. You have to introduce them to the universe. So
they have to be in the movie?
Because of where they are. So like that part of New York City where they are, because all of them is located there. If you look at the last Doctor Strange movie, if you look at that part of New York City where they are, they're located near that part. So you have to introduce them. And it's been like some eggs that they've dropped where like you can see Luke Cage standing in the background of a movie standing next to Iron Fist. So like being able to introduce them in film is next, because Iron Fist deserves a film. Like it's great to see that the show, he deserves a film.
Yeah, but
his story is very, very unique.
But then what was the purpose of doing the Defenders? Because you put all them together and did this whole collaboration effort with all four of them. So is that going to be a Defenders movie?
Well, but because of the comic book, you would assume that they would get a film. But I think the show, and it would make sense that if you cancel Iron Fist and Luke Cage and kept the Defenders because of who they are and then what they mean to the cosmic universe. So after this is getting real comic booky, but after
I don't know.
Yeah, if you read the comics, after Hank Pym built the quantum realm or built that loop to the quantum realm.
I do know that's Ant-Man and them.
Where he built the prison for criminals, for the bad guys. He built a prison in the quantum realm. And this is like how Galactus becomes, like we know Galactus is like this infinite power and stuff, but he gets sent into the quantum realm and he escapes the quantum realm. And the quantum realm is just built of power. So like he get all that stuff. But then all the Avengers eventually disappear into the quantum realm. And we saw it like in the last Avenger movie. Now in the comic book, when this happens, certain members of the Marvel Universe take on the cloak of becoming the new Avengers. The only thing that makes this a little funny is because in the last movie, Spider-Man disappeared too. He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. So he disappeared. But in the Marvel Universe, Spider-Man becomes the leader of the new Avengers. Him, Wolverine, Iron Fist, Luke Cage. I'm missing
I learned
two
something
other
new. I did not
people.
know all this was going to happen.
Yeah, so it's just in the comic book. So I don't know how they're going to introduce it all together, because we know Wolverine isn't dead, which is why their origin story. So like what Marvel is doing with like the X-Men, bringing back all those origin stories. So we were introduced to Apocalypse. Well, we know who Apocalypse is, and we know that he's not dead. So we have to introduce him again. Introducing Galactus in this next movie. Now we know who Thanos is. We know Thanos isn't dead. Silver Surfer didn't die in the last movie with Fantastic Four, so having to reintroduce all these people and then introduce what they mean to the cosmic universe is going to be dope. I don't think you can do that with the show. And the only reason why Marvel has been able to consistently do it with introducing characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is because all those agents, like S.H.I.E.L.D. is a thing. The cosmic universe to Marvel is something totally different. So the stars and the powers and all that, like, that's something totally different. So S.H.I.E.L.D. has always had agents. Some of them got the superpowers. And
someone has to look on her face like she's.
No, I have a question. What are they gonna replace these shows with? Because
Netflix?
Yes, like it just in general. Because
I think they'll pick up some of the TV shows.
Like what?
Some of the TV shows that are already on. They'll run them like Hulu. So it'll run consistent. It'll run concurrent at the same time.
Yeah, but you don't have a lot of Marvel shows that are on TV unless you pull it from CW.
Well, they may pull different content.
They already have the ones from CW.
What Marvel show is on CW?
What Marvel shows on period outside of Cloak and Dagger?
What I'm saying is they may replace that content period just with other shows.
Netflix.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it'll have to run concurrent, but I don't think that Marvel necessarily with what Marvel just did in the last year. And what they got slated to come next year, 19 and 20, like you got I mean, man, look, these films that Marvel is about to drop and the money they just made, I don't think they need Netflix. They technically do not need Netflix unless they want to introduce certain characters can be introduced on Netflix. It was cool to introduce Iron Fist, but Iron Fist wasn't the guy that stood alone. He stood next to Luke Cage. So
well, that was a speculation though. People were speculating that they canceled them because they're going to put them in a show called Heroes for Hire. Yeah, they are together.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what the speculation.
Well,
is.
that's what it's supposed to be. Now the Defenders happened when it was supposed to. It happened before, so the stories don't make. You have to run. Marvel storylines have to run in order, and if they don't, then you have to run it back. So they introduced the Defenders before they introduced Heroes for Hire, and that's not how the story goes. The story is Heroes for Hire joined the Defenders, but they were viewed as like vigilantes, like everybody else. And then all those guys came together. So I think it's going to be dope. But I also think that Marvel got the check now. And Marvel like, nah, we straight. We just making moves.
All right,
so they're not canceling the shows because they're doing bad. They're canceling
No. Iron Fist didn't do what they thought it was.
No,
Yeah,
Iron
some
Fist did
maybe.
bad. That's why they got canceled first.
The first season did pretty well. The second season was all right. But you introduced him in the Defenders before you do the second season.
But and the other cancellations have run their course. Don't you think? Like Orange is the New Black. The other cancellations.
Oh yeah, those two
just
ran
run
their
their
course.
course.
It's only 2 books.
I did feel some kind of way about Luke Cage because
it was popular.
I like we had two
a film.
black male heroes, superheroes. That was Luke Cage and Black Lightning. So I feel some kind of way when you cancel one of them.
But it's a few.
I was salty about that.
And that's the speculation about Black Lightning too.
What
about how long you can actually run it? Because we've seen in this is like TV specs. You see how long black superhero shows last. Like Static Shock, 4 seasons, and then we see him in like other DC stuff because eventually he joined. So we'll see that. Black Lightning, if you're saying that he's the adult version of Static Shock, for us, like that grew up on Static Shock, when you watch it, it's just dope. It's like Static Shock.
Did I mention Black Lightning films at my church?
Seriously?
Shout out to New Beginning, Church of Atlanta, Pastor Tim Bennett. It's Pastor Appreciation Month, so.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
all right, let's get out of this. I knew you can go on all that backstory. I didn't even realize there was that much to it. I just want to voice my outrage over Black Lightning being canceled.
You voiced your outrage.
I just want to voice my outrage. I mean, Luke Cage being canceled.
Yeah.
I just want to vote my outrage to Marvel because I support you bad boys. Every movie you made, I pretty much seen. So for you to cancel Luke Cage, I feel some kind of way about it.
I
But
think he has a film coming.
If you have a better plan, I'm okay with that, and I'm willing to wait around and see.
I think he has a film coming, but this is I watched an interview with Professor Smalls. He's a very prevalent, conscious black leader and professor, and he said that it's the Jack Johnson effect with Luke Cage.
What does that mean?
So Jack Johnson was a boxer in the early 1900s.
Yeah, I know who he is.
He was viewed as like invincible, and I think like having a superhero that's black, that's like viewed like that, is kind of scary, and you don't usually like Black Panther isn't invincible.
So it's a means of black character suppression. Like black similar to voter suppression.
We're not even going there. Actually, that's a good segue. That's a good segue to where we want to go.
They said that the people at Netflix voted to keep Luke Cage, even if they canceled Iron Fist. But the consensus was that you have to cancel both, and it's kind of lame.
I'm sorry. That was such a corny segue, but I was just like,
that was corny.
It's character suppression.
But it works.
But it is because
I'll let you
assume
do
that your vote matters.
Yeah, I got the okay, so this is about obviously about the Georgia, not just the Georgia governor's race, which is one of the most contested races in the midterms, but it's also about lawsuits, now 6 that are being levied against the Republican candidate Brian Kemp. So there's a coalition of advocacy groups suing Georgia Secretary of State Brian Kemp, basically because he's been enforcing the state's voter laws, and now we've got very restrictive voter laws on the books for the last year plus. The policy actually is called exact match. So Stacey Abrams and of course many others have come out and talked about how this is really kind of like an intelligent architecture of voter suppression. There are about 53,000 people, who were registered to vote 2 years ago who are no longer registered to vote because of the exact match law. So essentially, if there's any discrepancy between the information that the Secretary of State has, the Georgia Department of Driver Services, or the Social Security Administration, you have been put basically on hold, or your registration has been moved off of the rolls, and you have to do something about it. And we are now, I think, about less than 2 weeks out. So the timeline has basically passed for them to be able to update any of your information. If you were going to vote absentee, or if you were going to vote elsewhere or vote early, you can't do that anymore.
Yep. Show up that day.
Right.
Garbage.
The AP said that this affects 70% of people were Black or African American.
Yes. Also, Kemp is also under fire for voting rights advocates for canceling more than 1 million inactive voters from Georgia's rolls since becoming the state's chief elections officer in 2010, which is another issue. The practice was upheld by the Supreme Court in a 5-4 ruling in June. The state, which is us, the state purged a total of 1.5 million voters between the 2012 and 2016 elections, according to a report from the Brennan Center for Justice. So that's the other issue. That not only is he Secretary of State, also that he is this person, the state's chief elections officer.
Right.
How are we going to do it? Exactly. Complete conflict of interest. You have these 53,000 voters who are new voters. On the other side, which I found very funny, Kemp is blaming Abrams for this because he said that when she did her New Georgia project in 2013 and she got all these 53,000 people registered, they should have made sure that they filled out their applications properly.
Well, people have to understand that what she just read, if she read it again, you'd understand this law has been on the books for a long time.
Enforced it.
And he's enforcing that we just talked about this. Like, we assume like these laws is just here,
and
then we can just move around because nobody talks about them. And then when you try to do something that's different, it's always gonna be somebody be like, "Hey, bro, that's no, it's a law that your name and your address got to match on your license for you to vote." Yeah. So like, imagine people that can't vote because their name and their address don't match, but you can't vote without a license, and they don't take paper licenses.
No, absolutely not.
So it takes at least 10 to 14 days for you to get your license, but early voting started a couple weeks ago. Voting is next week, week after next. If you don't get your license by that date, you can't vote.
Right.
So they're estimating about 20 to 25,000 people won't be able to vote because they won't get their license in the time.
Definitions for yes. So
all right, so we're gonna get into some terms that you're hearing a lot. So what are those terms?
So I think the first thing we should cover is an absentee ballot.
Yes.
So the absentee ballot deadline has passed, but it is very important, mostly because people cannot always find time to vote on the day of voting. It's typically a weekday. So voting absentee is actually a really good way to kind of avoid this problem in the first place, because normally it would allow for weeks out for you to basically mail in your ballot. The state would have to send it to you if you'd apply to register to vote absentee, and you could take care of your entire process kind of on your own time. So an absentee ballot, if you're registered to vote, which by the way, go to sos.ga.gov as the Secretary of State page if you're we're in Atlanta Metro, but anywhere in the state of Georgia. And we have one of the most archaic voting sites that there is. So I know it applies to other states too, but you can always check electronically if you're registered. But if you want to do something about it, it's not an electronic process. We don't have it streamlined. You got to go somewhere. And obviously now that we've kind of enforced ID laws, getting your ID is not quite as simple either. You used to be able to just get an ID online if you were a citizen, but now you actually have to go. You have to prove your address, prove your this, prove your that. Can't be any discrepancy. So absentee ballot, that's what that is. Provisional ballot. A provisional ballot is a regular ballot that's placed in a special envelope prior to being put on the ballot box. They're cast by voters who believe that they're registered to vote, even if their names are not on the official ballot. So a provisional ballot is basically if you're on hold, if you have a question, if you're confused, it's treated like an official ballot, but it basically is a way of saying you may not be eligible. So it's almost like a red flag to the Secretary of State who processes all of the voter applications. So send it in if you don't know if you're registered to vote, because it can be counted.
So
now,
in
if
other
you're
words,
ineligible,
the title kind of says what it is. It's a provision to make sure that you're counted. And then they'll do the research after it's over to say, okay, well, we made a provision for you, but we shouldn't have because you don't count, because you're not, in the system, so on and so forth. Right. But the name implies what it means. There's a provision for you. So for those individuals who find out that you're no longer eligible to vote, you can request a provisional ballot to have that provision set aside for you.
Yes. And that's another reason why, again, because all this is going on, why early voting is something you should take advantage of. Because if there is a problem and you cannot early vote and you have to show up the day of, you don't want to find out the day of. Yeah. You could be finding out
it's
now.
Too late. It's too late.
Yeah.
Because with this ID laws in Georgia are weird. And it's weird in other states, but in Georgia, so like if you go and apply for your ID, you need proof of residence.
Right.
Your social or your birth certificate.
Yeah.
Or both. Now, if you don't have your social or your birth certificate, you know what you need to get your social and your birth certificate?
ID. State ID. Yeah, you do. And it costs money. And it's not a quick process.
Well, it used to be
either, so
$15.
you can't do it before
I
you
think
vote.
it's 20.
Yeah, it's 20.
Wait, I have a question that's out of curiosity. What's the demographic that this affects? Like, who is this affecting?
They said 70% of people are African American who have been kicked off of the rolls. But another thing to think about is Georgia has removed a lot of polling locations. Like in the South, NPR was covering this, I think, over the summer. I think before this really caught wind, a lot of the polling locations in the South part of the state were removed. I think over 50 locations on average. So they also removed a lot of the places that you're eligible to vote, which makes it harder for some people to get to those polls too. So, and just statistically speaking, there's always discrepancies between wealth and civic participation and race and civic participation, but this just exacerbates those. So
here's to your question. Georgia's population is approximately 32% black, according to the U.S. Census, but the list of voter registrations on hold with Kemp's office is nearly 70% black.
Yeah.
So there's your answer to the question. Conspiracy theories, but then you have bigger problems because you also get into what we talked about vaguely, and we have to devote a show to this: gerrymandering, the rezoning of districts to get people out of it. The people that you think are not going to vote for you. If I gerrymander that district, I can move you to where I want you to be, where you don't really affect me.
First of all, gerrymander is a trash name. Whoever named that.
I think it's named after somebody.
It's named after somebody.
But
I think it's named after somebody.
Shady.
His name is garbage. But that's what they do. This is America. And we have to, that's why I said, like, people need to understand their history. They need to do, especially, like, if you live in the South, go read your history. Read your history. Read the laws that are on the books for you.
All right, so let's segue to what's on the books. So this is what I try to get people to understand. And it's like what Double R was saying, that, you know, when stuff is written and it's actually laws, but they're not enforced laws. So people think when they start getting enforced or somebody use it to their advantage, which is what we're kind of seeing here, people go, oh, well, that's not law. It is law. It's been written. We just don't enforce it. Which brings me to slavery. So in Colorado, Article 2, Section 26 of Colorado's Constitution reads this. Shall never be in the state either slavery or involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted.
That's like the U.S. Constitution.
It reads
like
that in the Constitution. Yeah. So when Kanye says that we need to...
We can't kill the messenger.
I'm just saying.
I'm looking at Simone because she's
to even say amend, but then when you read it in state law and you assume that it's similar, and then you read the word and like, oh, that sounds like what's in the Constitution. Now read it again. You got to read the articles before and after, because state constitutions and state like stuff like that, reading it for your state and then reading like the Constitution is not the same. So you find out like in certain states where it is law for slavery to be crime. Like you can't hold slaves here. You can't be a slave here. Like if somebody call you a slave or lock you up and say they go to jail. In certain states that were like that. I would assume that Colorado was one of those states. But if you read that Constitution, you like, oh like if that's what you do when you do what you do there, like it's cool. But that people need to understand the history of this country. Where you live. Don't just assume like the Constitution is cool for you no matter where you at.
Yeah, like it's
read the laws where you are.
It doesn't cross the whole land.
Read the laws where you are. Colorado is one of those states where like you would assume because of the side of the state, like the population lit. No, this is mostly land. It's a lot of land. It's people there, but it's a lot of land.
Well, there's more than 15 other state constitutions that allow slavery as punishment for a crime. So Colorado's not alone.
That's U.S. Constitution. Like it's cool to. Oh, you could be a slave if you go to jail.
Yeah, if you're punished for a crime.
And I don't have to pay you for it. So when I say like a criminal is worth $30,000 a year, man, look, man, the history is garbage.
So that is enforced.
Yeah, slavery is enforced.
Well, they're going to vote. Colorado's going to vote next month on changing the language.
And they'll probably pass it.
Georgia wanted to remove it too. From there, they wanted to remove it, but they didn't. South Carolina didn't. Florida didn't. Alabama didn't. Mississippi didn't. Louisiana didn't. Texas didn't.
But speaking of just knowing what's going on with your state, another reason is a lot of states, another thing you got to be cautious of, states a lot of times will register you by party. Like certain states don't. Certain states will, if you're registered to vote, they'll send you the same information. But in Georgia, you do register by, in Oregon, you register by party. And in a lot of states on the West Coast and in New England, you register by party, which means you get certain information. And Georgia doesn't technically do that, but if you look at the Secretary of State's website and kind of just go down, because when you go to vote, you're voting for more than one thing. You may only have Abrams in mind, or you may only have like school superintendent in mind, but you vote for everything. Yes. And on the Secretary of State's website, the way that they present the information is so interesting to me because they show you all of the incumbents. And they say they're showing you the seats that are up, but they show you the incumbents. They don't give you as quick access to who's running against those incumbents. Like you have to dig a little bit deeper for that. And that, to me, is just like, it's frustrating because in a lot of states, not just Georgia, but especially Georgia, incumbents really have a tenure. Even the Democrat, like John Barrow, incumbents just seem to just sit. People just know the name, and they're like, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's why there's no recycling of, like, people.
Yeah. Define incumbent because you're using it.
Sorry. So an incumbent is a person who currently holds the office. And there are term limits for some offices, but if someone is reelected, some offices don't have term limits. Somebody can just run and sit there. And that's why you have career politicians. And quite frankly, that creates a lot of problems. So you also need to do due diligence about who's running for what, you know, because it's not going to be immediately available.
Like when you find out your city has a commissioner and you like, hey, cuz, what you do, bro?
I'm saying.
I honestly, I heard of it vaguely, but I didn't realize we had an insurance commissioner. I heard of it vaguely. Yeah. It's not something that was in my right thought process. And there's an African American woman running for that office.
Even with the that's why gerrymandering is weird now, because when you find out how many new cities there are in Georgia and how old they are, you realize like why they do it. So when you realize like Brookhaven is now a city. Buckhead isn't a city, it's a neighborhood. It's a very, very large neighborhood. But that's still Atlanta. Brookhaven is now a city.
Yeah.
It's a city. Why is Brookhaven a city? Because Brookhaven used to be Buckhead. Nah, it's a city now. And then you realize the money that goes into Brookhaven, and you realize the money that goes into that's spent in Buckhead, but the money that goes into the city of Brookhaven, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now they got a mayor.
Yeah.
I don't know his name.
Voting. Well, Megan Hansen represents Brookhaven. She's a good friend of mine. So some states are paying and spending the money that they believe is worth it to like digitize voting and to make sure that people can just vote online like we do everything else. Pay your taxes online. Voting online would be so simple. But there are private companies with apps that will help you to at least figure out what you need to know. Like the Empowered is a Georgia-based tech company. Yeah. They have an app you can download. I was looking up the Vox Vote. They have free and easy to use, not just voting, but also kind of seeing where you're supposed to go, like what my locations are, what my deadlines are, when time does this place close. You know what I mean? So you can make arrangements for that. There's ways to figure it out, but just figure it out because people who do vote overwhelmingly and will wait in line all day or all week to vote are typically older and Caucasian. I'm good. And they vote and they don't miss a vote and they will walk out of their job to vote. But how far? Oh, what time?
Exactly.
We have to vote.
Girl, I can't miss work. What you mean?
We have to vote, man.
What you mean?
Or this is what you get. More of the same.
Mess.
I just want to know, like, why is it like so many jobs like that we don't know about? But these people like hold a political office in that when like I remember like in 2008 when they were doing like the vote campaign with like Diddy and all that. Yeah. And they were only talking about the president. Right. So I started doing the research like who is this dude like that I keep seeing just all these signs in my neighborhood like who? And this is when I was living where I was at in 2000. I was like near where I am right now in Brookhaven. I'm like, who is this guy? Everybody in the neighborhood got his sign. I don't know who he is. I still don't know who that person is. Still. But I would see his name everywhere and I'm like, what do he do? Like, who is this? What's your job? And then you realize like if there's a city, if you live somewhere that you assume is a neighborhood and then you find out it's a city, there's probably somebody with a job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a hierarchy.
And everything is state-based. Like the insurance policies that you have or that you don't have because you can't afford insurance commissioner. They negotiate those rates.
Yep.
Your water pressure is controlled by the state. Like what you have access to. The fact that you may hate Georgia Power, maybe you hate Marietta Power. Well, the state decides how many companies can do business in power and water. Yep. They decide all of that.
City planners, all kinds. There are so many positions.
You realize, like, depending on, so like Decatur is a city, but you got Georgia Power in Decatur. When you realize that if you live in the city of Atlanta, you're eligible to get your power regulated, but if you live in DeKalb County, you might not be able to get your power regulated. So, like, have your power set every month where you use a certain amount of kilowatts
it's
every
like
day.
Prepaid.
I don't know if you could do that in DeKalb County. When I was living in DeKalb County, they told me I wasn't eligible. When I was living in Atlanta, and now I'm living in Atlanta, and when I moved back to Atlanta, like, oh no, we can regulate your power.
Right. In Atlanta, you have weed on you, decriminalized. If you move a little bit further to the west and you find yourself in
Fulton,
in Cobb.
Cobb.
No, they can take you to jail. Take you to Cobb.
Yeah, so, I'm like, it's mad counties.
All right, so let's.
There are mad counties, and there's a difference between a felony and going back home.
Yeah. All right, so let's in our last couple of minutes. Number one. On Monday, we have Rachel Kinsey here, who's running for office, and she's going to talk about her platform, all that good stuff. The Monday after her, on November the 5th, we have Trey Deadweiler, who's going to be here to talk about how the process, he didn't quite make it past the primary process, but we want him to talk about that experience. And there is a absolute host of great guests we're having in November. November is Empowerment Month, so we can look at everything from sports leadership to the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, what that means for your business, all that good stuff. Go to ricecommunity.com, Rice with a W, to find out the whole schedule, read their bios, all that good stuff. Kyle, give us your final thoughts, and I want a good one, too. You did good today, but I want a good one.
Let me go last.
No, because I always let you go last. You're going first today.
What I would say is make sure that you guys would definitely go out and vote. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Just vote, especially if you're a millennial. Just
all
go
that
and
stuff
vote.
we talked about today, and that's your final thought. All that stuff we don't talk about today. That's your final thought. That's your last pass. Next Friday, it's coming down like a hammer. All right, Double R, final thought.
Final thoughts. Know your history. Do your research. Pay attention, because there's a lot of stuff going on around you and a lot of people running for office around you that you never heard of and you don't know. Do your research. Don't just pay attention to the news. Go online. You hear a name, look that name up. Pay attention, especially where you live. Get out there and vote. We need to get Stacey Abrams in office. It's going to set precedent.
I said final thought.
That is my final thought.
That is a final thought. And I'm very surprised she would be the first black governor, but I'll just piggyback on that and say take people with you as well. Like, don't let it be an excuse that somebody couldn't find their way somewhere. Like, we already know these places are tiny places. You're going to be standing in line. You're going to be waiting. If you're by yourself waiting, maybe doesn't, before you start shaking your feet and thinking, I'm going to just go home, this is bring people with you.
Yep, and
because
get there
it's
early.
going to be difficult, so just expect that. Like, when you walk into the DMV, you just know it's going to be some
get there
BS.
early.
So just expect it and go.
All right, so again, it's my final thought, ricecommunity.com. That's Rice with a W, so WRICE community.com. Check out the guest that we're going to have next month. It's going to be an amazing month. It's Empowerment Month over here. So we give you everything that you need. And we'll see you on Monday on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.